Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Pedro Neira, co-founder of Construct AI, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices that he's learned, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, Pedro. So great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much for the invite, Kay.
Of course. But before we get into all things business, I'd love to share with our audience a little bit about you. So take us back as far as you'd like and share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Construct AI is my fourth startup. I started my first startup was a prop tech startup that I exited, selling it to Tiger Global Management back in the day. That startup was operated only in Peru, which is the country where I'm originally from. My second startup operated in Latin America. For my third startup, we operated in Lima, Mexico, and New York. So that was the first startup where I got to land in the US market. And right now for Construct AI, we're building for the US market first, and we're based in Austin.
Wonderful. Well, that is very cool to hear you've started multiple businesses and so how has that knowledge helped shape what you're building now?
It's been compounding over the years. Of course, in my first startup, I really wasn't aware of what I was doing. I just created a new business and didn't know kind of what the roadmap was on building a successful business. So I didn't know how to raise money, how to build a team, how to scale a sales team. I learned that all of that in my first startup. Then for my second startup, it was the first time that I got to land in Silicon Valley, which is a place that I'm very fond of and where I have learned a lot over the years. It's a special place where there's a lot of talent, where you can learn a lot. I've been part of three or four different acceleration programs over the year. The first one in 2014, like a month in Palo Alto, and last one last year that ended up in San Francisco. So that's a place where I've been learning a lot throughout my career.
That's incredible. Well, now I want to dive into Construct AI. Can you tell me a bit about how you got started with this and like what inspired you?
Yeah, so being a serial entrepreneur and this being my fourth venture, I started to think, okay, what I'm gonna do next after I shut down my previous company. And my first personal requisite, I said, I'm not gonna come up with any business idea. So I said, I'm not gonna think of any business idea. I'm gonna look for a very big problem to solve. And until I don't have, I haven't found that problem, I'm not gonna start anything. And I looked for that problem for over 8 months. I joined two acceleration programs. First, I was over 4 months into a blockchain acceleration program. I didn't find anything there, so I just kept looking. And then I applied to a program called Latitude Fellowship, which was a program organized by a VC fund targeted to Latin American founders. There were over 1,000 applications, and only 10 of us were selected. And this was for founders at pre-idea stage. So none of us, none of the 10 select, we didn't really know what we were going to do. But the program was specifically tailored for us, so we can find this next idea or this next big problem. And I was lucky enough by talking to some people from my first startup, in my PropTech startup, that I found this really big problem that occurs in the pre-construction in the construction industry at the pre-construction stage. So basically, general contractors and subcontractors make multi-million-dollar decisions with very incomplete and inaccurate data, and they have to make those decisions very early on. Why? Because they don't have enough information. They based all of their decisions on basically 2D blueprints, which is very inaccurate to make those multi-billion decisions. After a couple of months that I has had zero in this problem, I found my co-founder, Fernando Maitorena, who lives in Austin the last 3 years. And the funny story is that he was looking to solve the same problem like 7 years earlier than I was. So we were both two founders. He's a technical guy, he's an architect with a master's in applied AI. So he has a perfect technical background to solve what we are trying to solve. But interestingly enough, he had experienced the pain himself earlier in his career. So he knows what kind of problems it can bring you to a construction project not to have this data available early on. So that's how we decided to co-found the company and start the business together around August last year.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations. And that's incredible that you found like such a great fit for a partner as well for this project. Now, you mentioned that you serve it or your product or your services are for contractors pre-built, correct?
Yeah, at the pre-construction stage, which is before you start actually putting the bricks
Mhm.
on the actual construction site. So basically at the design stage, the early stage of design of a construction project.
Okay.
At that stage, the first stage is the architects make some schematic designs, and then you have to take those designs and get them what is called to fabrication ready documentation, which is the actual set of documents that you need to build a new project. That gap from early stage schematic design to fabrication ready is usually takes 4 to 6 months to come up with a 3D BIM model, which is what we are automating. No, we are automating 3D BIM modeling for construction. That's what we do, which is a process that takes now 4 to 6 months. It costs these companies between 150 to $250,000, depending on the size of what you are building, to get this 3D BIM model, and we are automating that with AI. So general contractors and subcontractors not only save a lot of time, they can get these models maybe in 2 or 3 weeks instead of 5 months, but also save 70, 80, or 90% of the cost that currently takes to get these big models. That's the value we're bringing to the construction industry.
That is incredible. Now, is your platform, is it like subscription based then, or is it like a one purchase at a time?
It's a good question. So right now we are our company is at what is called a pre-seed stage. So we are early on. We are launching the beta product is going to be launched by the end of March, maybe first week of April. So we're about to launch the product. And the way it's used is you pay a subscription, a monthly small fee, around $100, but you're gonna pay per credit usage. So if you wanna design a small one flat house, maybe it's gonna cost you $50, $80. But if you wanna design a $50 million shopping mall, you're gonna consume much more credits, and you're gonna pay several $1,000s to get that model of a bigger construction project. That's how it works. It's on a credit consumption base, very similar to how Cloud Code charges today its subscription model.
Okay, okay, incredible. Now, you mentioned your co-founder. I'd love to learn about the rest of your company. Now, tell me about your team. Do you have employees right now? Is there a
Yeah.
board of directors?
Yeah, again, it's a small company. We're a team of five. So it's
Oh,
two co-founders, Fernando and I, and we have three additional people in our team, all of them technical, highly technical, because what we're building is very, very complex to code. And all of them come from an AI software engineer background or from a construction background.
okay. Okay, incredible. Now, you're pre-seed, you're about ready to launch. Take me through how you're telling people about your company and your marketing behind your company. How are you reaching out to find your clients?
That's a good question, and something interesting happened to us on that end. Again, we are a small company. We're about to launch, so we have not invested significantly in marketing. But what we did a couple of weeks ago is we just recorded a very small video, 3-minute video of our product doing what it does. Basically, taking it's my co-founder Fernando showing his screen and getting a blueprint and taking this 2D blueprint and coming up with a 3D model in 3 minutes. What he did on that video usually would have taken a BIM modeler around 3 days to model. We did that in 3 minutes. We just put that on our LinkedIn page, and it went absolutely viral. I mean, and everybody started to share, to repost. I mean, everybody started to comment. Seems like there was a lot of interest from all over the world. Actually, not only the US. We got some inbound messages from Middle East, from UK, South Africa, Asia, all over the world because people wanted to know when are we launching, how can they use it. There was a lot of interest, even interest from really, really big companies, like top three, top five real estate, commercial services, or contractors, uh, top level around the world. So even these very big companies got interested in what we're building because it can save them so much time and so much money that they really want to use it.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. Like I'm very intrigued by it too. And so now as you're kind of like moving towards this goal, launching the product, where do you see the trajectory of the company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, what we see is what we are bringing to the industry is very transformational. No, I mean, imagine that right now to go from designing 10 schematic designs to fabrication ready document takes 4 to 6 months for any construction project. What that means is that you cannot make those multi-million-dollar decisions up very advanced early stage. So to shorten that time, that's what we are aiming to shorten that time from 6 months to maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. That's going to change completely the industry, the economics of the industry. That can even help lower prices, like housing prices, reduce costs for the construction industry, shorten the time that it takes to build something because you can make those decisions earlier. So if a multi-story building would have taken, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe now you can make it in 12, 14 months. So that's going to have a huge, huge impact in the industry as we envision it.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And now, as you're starting up, what has been the biggest challenge that you've been faced with so far?
Okay, one early challenge was to explain what we do. And it was very difficult to explain at the beginning. It changed completely when we show it because it is just, if you see it on a video, when we're able to record a short video and show people what our product does, it changed the narrative completely because we didn't have to explain, just had to see it. So that was an early challenge, explaining people what we do. Then another challenge that we have right now, we're raising a round of $1.5 million, an investment round from venture capitals. And at the beginning, it's been a little bit of a challenge to explain to VCs what we do, uh, especially what is called agnostic venture capitalists, which is with investors that invest in a lot of different industries. People from the construction industry, they get it very easily, very rapidly, because they understand what's the pain of what we are solving. But generalist investors have a harder time grasping how important is the problem that we are solving for the construction industry. So that has been the second challenge that we're facing, no? I would say.
Now, how are you finding ways to remedy that challenge? Because that makes a lot of sense, when you think of venture capitalists and getting their brains wrapped around what you're building. How have you been working on remedying that?
Yeah, to be honest, the main piece of material that you use, at least at the beginning with VC investors, is your pitch deck. No? And I have had been iterating this pitch deck like several times just to make it more understandable and to convey better the ideas of what we're building. And I would say the pitch deck that we have right now, which is 4 weeks into our round, it's significantly different than the one we had at the beginning because we have been hearing back what investors, the feedback from investors, what they get excited about, what they don't understand, and we have been tweaking it to overcome that. And also because we have been making some progress since we started racing. No? At the beginning, we haven't had this viral moment with our product demo. This happened like in a couple of weeks ago, so we had to include that information and update investors. So those are ways in which we are showing how to overcome that.
Oh, that's great. And now I kind of want to bring the focus back to you as the co-founder. Now, as a startup, where do you see your time being more utilized? Are you mostly working in the business or on the business, or is it a lot of both at this point?
Right now, my main focus is to understand what our customers want. That's focus number one, because when you have a technology like this, it can solve many different problems for many different use cases. But if we don't focus in solving the problem for a particular segment, you can get all over the place. And you can end up with a product that is kind of a Frankenstein because you have a little bit of this, little this, and you're not solving the problem to anyone in particular. So right now, it's been very curious talking to a lot of customers, which happily for us, our video brought us a lot of interest. We're talking, trying to understand them. What do they want? And right after we launch the beta, I'm gonna be doing the same, but not just by showing them the product, but hearing their feedback after they use the product, which is a different stage. So I would say that's my main goal at the beginning. And along the way, I mean, learning how to monetize, learning how is the selling process. I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to learn when you launch something this new that doesn't have like a parallel or another company you can emulate. You just have to work your way up from the beginning.
Definitely. Now, how has, the impact of startup mode and creating this kind of almost like a focus group, or you're giving this to information and gathering information. How has that impacted your time as a co-founder?
I mean, I take as many calls, as many customer calls as I have, because that's the most important thing that the company needs from my end right now. My co-founder is building the product. Of course, he has to hear our users as well, but that's my focus number one. No? And also closing some design partnerships so we can get some early revenue and some paying customers early on to help us not only bring revenue to the company, but also develop the software along them, which is something interesting as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing about your business. Now I want to take us through a fun part of the conversation called our rapid fire Q&A. So I'm going to be asking you 4 questions and just answer very top of mind.
Okay.
All right. Question number 1 is, what is a key to success for you?
It's resilience.
Definitely love that. Number 2 is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
For other business owners, if you are just like thinking about it, doing something, just do it. A lot of people overthink, and overanalyze. Just go for it.
Definitely. Number 3, this is kind of a fun one. What is a piece of content? It could be a book, a podcast, just like an article you may have read that has impacted you recently.
This is very non-business like, but it's a book called Meditation in Action. It's a very short book, very simple book to read, but it has impacted me quite a lot.
I just wrote that one down. It sounds like something, yeah, a good one to read. So
Yeah.
a good one for business owners, I think.
Maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, the final question, and feel free to take your time on this one. If I handed you a magic wand and you could rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I think it would be the speed to understand our customers, because speed to build, we already have the capability to build faster than any time in history. We can build, I mean, with AI, we can shift things very, very, very fast. But customer understanding, we haven't got as fast as that. So if I had a magic wand, I would love to understand our customers faster and in a deeper way.
Ooh, I want to ask a follow-up question because that's a really good answer. What is one way you want to be able to understand them? Is there a system you'd want to implement or just getting more of them to talk to? How do you want to do that?
I actually I've read a book about that I use quite a lot. It's called the Mom Test. It's a very, very easy framework, a very short book to read that I recommend to everybody. And it tells you how to talk to clients. It's very easy without biasing their answers, which is the more difficult part. That's a framework I use quite a lot to talk to customers.
I'm writing that one down too. That's really good. Well, thank you so much for sharing those rapid fire questions. Now, before we get to our final question of the day, how can people connect with you and your company online?
To our company, just log into constructai.la. And to me personally, you can look me out on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you guys. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, please mention that where you found me, because otherwise I don't know where where the connection request came from, and I might reject it. But feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Ah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Pedro, for sharing that information. Now, for the final question of the day, what is most inspiring to you today?
The most inspiring thing for me today is the ability that we have right now that we didn't have 2 years ago to basically build anything we want in so fast, especially for non-technical founders. It's the first time in history that non-technical founders, basically, that's basically everyone in the world, that we can build whatever we want and in very fast way. That hadn't happened in the history of mankind, and that's happening today. That's very exciting. That's very exciting.
Definitely. I agree with you. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for sharing about your company and wishing you the best of luck with your venture.
Thank you very much. Hey.